Well, joining us now for more on this, political commentators Joe Messina and Mo Kelly. Mo, often in diplomacy, when things go badly, a summit, high-level meeting, the diplomats will say, well, it could have been worse. If we look at what happened at the NATO summit on day one, could it have gone worse?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It could have gone worse, but I saw a president who was performing. He was performing for an audience of two. You could say the American people who support him and also Vladimir Putin. This is a president who seems to only know carrot and stick. Carrot for dictators and stick for our allies. I'm not so sure that I think that was a good day for America.
Yeah. So, Joe, Donald Trump was clearly, he was ready for a fight. Or confrontation at least. He got it from the moment he walked into that breakfast with the Secretary General of NATO and the cameras started rolling. The Washington Post, though, reports that Trump was more cordial in private than in his public remarks. And, Nick Robertson also sort of backs that up. I guess there's a reason why leaders have, in the past, talked tough behind closed doors, but diplomatically in public. Because for a country like Germany, when Donald Trump goes after Germany for wanting to increase the defense spending and, deals with Russia, that makes it a lot harder for Chancellor Angela Merkel to actually agree to what Donald Trump wants to be done. So he's actually sort of, if this is truly what he wants, it seems like he's sort of shooting himself in the foot.
Yeah, well, Merkel's got her own problems, right?
She's got a lot of problems.
She's got a dismal approval rating in Germany to begin with. But, again, the term that we hear a lot, too, is he's not presidential. He's not presidential. I don't want him to be presidential.
I didn't even go there this time.
No, you didn't go there this time. But I'm saying, we go into these meetings in the immortal words of Mr. Obama when he went to Cuba. He said, we've been doing this for 50 years. It hasn't helped us. Well, why haven't they stepped up? They've spent 1.2% of their budget on NATO, the Germans have, and they said, we'll get to it when we get to it because we've got other important things. Why don't we do the same thing with NATO and the UN? We'll get to it when we get to it because our budgets, we're pretty short on our budget as it is. So when do they step up and do what they're supposed to do? When do we stop being called upon to be the financiers of the world, if you would, or the protectors of the world, and they won't even protect themselves?
There are two things here. There's message and methodology, and both are equally important. Unfortunately, I think this president oversimplifies the issue and always puts it in terms of a financial transaction because that's what he knows best. And then we have a transactional president who doesn't get into the overarching issues, the intricacies of diplomacy. We need Germany. We need France. We need England, even though they are pulling out of the EU. We have a much more weakened alliance across the globe, and that is specifically because we have a president who is not presidential and does not exactly take to value those things which help bring us together.
The one thing I will say, Joe, is that
we heard the same thing with North Korea, right? We were going to get a nuclear war.
That did very well.
I haven't seen any missiles go off. Have you lately? Have you seen this guy? I mean,
because there hasn't been war doesn't mean
the U.S. intelligence is saying
he was rattling more than his saber. He was rattling rockets.
Okay.
We're
What
not
does he
there
gain, though?
anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
What
look,
has he lost?
The U.S. intelligence continues to suggest that the North Koreans are building up their nuclear arsenal. If they're really serious about denuclearization,
as they did with
wouldn't
the
be doing
Iranian
that.
deal.
And also, Pompeo couldn't even get a meeting with Kim Jong-un, who went out and picked potatoes and appeared on state media rather than meeting the Secretary of State. It hasn't gone exactly as planned, to say the least, with North Korea. But let's stick with NATO, because I think that's what the news of the day is.
Yeah, sorry.
Because I think, Joe, that, what a lot of people get confused about is NATO country members are hoping to, have an aspirational target of 2% of their GDP to be spent on defence. That is to be spent within that country so that they are ready, and so they have an active reserve. That's not money which goes into NATO. That's just how much they spend. And the reason why the US spends so much on defence is because that money was ramped up in the wake of 9/11, which is a choice by the United States. So it spends 3.62% of GDP on defence. Huge budget, huge defence expenditure. So I think there's this confusion which the president has and continues to have, that these people aren't paying enough into NATO.
They aren't paying what they agreed to pay. They aren't stepping up the way they said they were going to step up. And who do they come to, the UN and NATO, when they come up short, when they need more help or they need more money? So don't agree to it if you're not going to do it. Don't ask us for help.
Right.
And then, as you've heard, I know we're not talking about tariffs, but then we get nailed with tariffs. So why is it always on the United States? Why is it always on us just to shut our mouth and keep getting slapped around.
Well, we want our troops over there. We want to have our bases over there. There is a relationship in all of this.
The United States earns $2.6 billion a year from having its bases over there in Europe.
Yes.
Right, but the money and the economy that we bring over with our bases, and we protect some of them. We help protect those countries.
I guess the question is here, does the United States benefit from a peaceful Europe, a peaceful and prosperous Europe, in more ways than just what it spends on defense? But look, I want to go to what Trump was saying about Germany and the attack on Angela Merkel. He went full, I'm not the puppet, you're the puppet. In case you've forgotten, this is what that was.
1,800 nuclear warheads, and she's playing chicken. Look, Putin, from everything I see, has no respect for this person.
Well, that's because he'd rather have a puppet as president of the United States.
No puppet.
And it's pretty clear.
You're the puppet.
Okay, that was a presidential debate against Hillary Clinton. You know, so Mo, this was the tactic that candidate Trump used to divert attention away from his own ties with Russia, and it seems that that tactic is being used again because a lot of the numbers that he presented at that breakfast with the NATO Secretary General, which is simply wrong.
And not only that, it's awful rich for this president, while under investigation regarding his relationships within his cabinet and also his campaign preceding that with Russia, to allege that Germany is somehow under the hand or under the finger of Russia. And if anything, it says to me that it's still on his mind every single day. And it sort of predicates everything that he wants to do and everything that he has to say, because he wants to push away this idea that he is cozy with Russia, even though he agrees with everything that Russia's doing, including the annexation of Crimea.
Okay, let's move on, because over at Fox News on Monday night, they had this prediction of what the US president was planning for the NATO summit.
You will not stop him from undermining NATO, and you will not stop him from realigning U.S. foreign policy to be more favorable towards Russia. He is going to do it. And the Republicans who say, well, we have a broad foreign policy apparatus, and we forced him to impose these sanctions, and we forced him to do these things. He is going to fly into Brussels like a seagull. He is going to defecate all over everything, squawk, and fly away is what he's going to do in Brussels. And the Europeans are going to continue to say to each other, we don't have a reliable partner in the U.S. government right now. We don't think that this is really a working relationship.
Okay, so that's Fox News. And now I want you to listen to one more clip here. It's from the Russian president last year when he was asked, would Russia benefit from internal strife within NATO?
Squabbles around NATO, do they help Russia? Well, in the sense that maybe they should completely be falling apart, then that will help. But we don't see that falling apart just yet.
Joe, if it was falling apart, it would help. We don't see that just yet. July 2nd, 2017. It seems as if the president is doing exactly what the Russian president would like him to do.
Well, I don't know if he's taking direction from the Russian president.
I didn't
really.
say that, but it certainly appears that
coincidence. It's funny how under Trump, every coincidence is directly related. Well, it's directly related under him. I know we're not talking about the other administration, so I won't go there.
Sure.
But when you get into this, really seriously, will NATO really fall apart if we don't step up what we're already doing? We're not going to back out from what we're doing. Do you really think so?
Yeah.
I don't think so at all. I think if you, again, I've said this before with you, read The Art of the Deal, and you go in there and you're asking for a lot more than what you actually want.
He didn't actually write that
You
book.
say that every time. But, you know, I've written.
But he didn't.
I've written a few books. I haven't totally written it myself either, and many people don't. But he adheres to those principles. He actually lives out and plays out the principles. But
that goes back to this being a transactional president, literally.
But you know what? It hasn't. I know you'd like to believe it has, but it really hasn't hurt us, has it? Right? I mean, you look at the unemployment.
That's like jumping off a building because you haven't hit the ground and saying it hasn't hurt us yet.
Okay, we're virtually at zero. We have businesses bringing jobs back to this country. The economy is still moving on.
Harley Davidson.
Harley Davidson had planned on doing. Let's be honest with each other here. They've been planning on doing this for what, a little over a year. It didn't just happen.
Let's just stick with NATO, because this is a whole. We could go on for a very long time with this, and it's a good discussion to have, but maybe at another time.
Okay.
But okay, so Mo, Joe says there's no harm in what is happening, but there is harm in what the NATO allies say if there is not this united front. Have these arguments behind closed doors. Don't have them in public, because everything here is the other way around. Trump is being cordial and friendly behind closed doors. He's berating everyone and being abusive in public, and that's presenting this image to Russia that there is, in fact, strife and division within
I'm not
NATO.
so sure that the president, in his desire to present a tough exterior, is getting anything out of this with NATO. I mean, he can do, to your point, he can do this, the same thing behind scenes, behind closed doors, and maybe gain some ground and come back with some sort of unanimity as far as what they should do going forward. But this president, unfortunately, is not interested in that, and he's performing. And as far as whether it's hurting us right now, I call this pizza and pancakes. You can eat pizza and pancakes for a few years before it shows the effects. Doesn't mean that it's healthy for you.
Okay.